The venue which hosted the series' very first test round, Green Valey, was now the venue for round 8 of the Samsung Superspeedway series with a slightly bigger grid than last time. The grid was led by Hugh Madsen with a stellar performance in the number 26 R1 Ford. Next to the enigmatic driver was Scotland's Audiman 2011 in the similarly numbered number 11 FedEx Chevrolet fielded by Swift Autosports, completing row 1. Two other teams were represented in row 2. Steph Sanjat and Green Valey was only further proof of this concept. There was some concern from drivers about this race, as the previous attempt of a race in Green Valey began with a major pileup that took out half the field during a test session. But fortunately, the race was able to go for more than one lap without any major incidents this time around. Instead, it was another classic moment of close-fought battles between several drivers, including a few off-the-wall moments such as Nico Driver HC taking the lowest racing line possible through turn 1 to move up the field and into 4th place. But there was another driver who surprised many with his start. Michelin Racing's TBWHHS in the National Guard Ford cleared the first lap pack and shot past several other drivers to attain 2nd place. But as it turned out, Green Valey's curse had not been eradicated. In fact, it was going to become one of the biggest problems throughout the entire race. It all began on lap 16. G. Parilla, who was in the highest racing line, was suddenly blasted on his rear quarter panel by Suzumiya, the artist formerly known as Bane Hamlin 1121. Unfortunately, the name change seemed to have done very little for the number 66's fortunes. As both cars collided, it came right across the path of Formidable and Vetman 24. The results were evident. While Vetman drove away with minimal damage, Parilla and Formidable were not so lucky. The number 17 DeWalt Ford was a write-off, while the Kodak Dodge managed to get on top of Vetman's car and then proceeded to roll over a few times before coming to a halt after turn 1. Suzumiya's bad fortune culminated in another DNF as his damaged Ford crashed into the B-Man's own Ford, only to be greeted by racecar Chevrolet, who slammed the side of the number 66 with equal force. Racecar would eventually continue the race, but without a chance to make a comeback, while B-Man and Suzumiya bid farewell to their race in Green Valey through the back door. The only highlight for the stricken drivers was the impressive wall running by B-Man and the equally impressive rooftop ride by the G. Parilla, a definite OMG moment in the season. The hood cameras also showed the vicious impacts involved in this pileup, as well as the demise of Victor Souza's own race after a collision with Suzumiya's car. In conclusion, 5 heavily mangled cars were the result of this crash and its domino effect, with one former racer winner included amongst the list. But that was not not all Green Valey had to offer in terms of crashes, because lap 55 featured yet another huge accident, and this time it was a truly serious accident as the images show. Doodle was making his way to the pits when his trajectory was cut off by Mike 458, who was traveling at very high speeds. Doodle had no chance of dodging the Valvoline dodge, and the ensuing impact sent the Kellogg's car right into the Cybertron, who found himself impaled by the safety wall and fence. Doodle's own car rolled over several times after the crash, but came to a halt on the bottom of turn 2. There was great concern about Cybertron's condition after such a violent impact with the safety fence. But despite some heavy bruises on his arms and legs, the race winner at Bump Drafton was cleared from the local hospital 4 hours later. There was more crashing action during the very same period, which featured Cybertron's NASCAR fencing. Smurfy Bug, who had been involved in a pit accident with teammate Ixme at Bump Drafton, became the victim of a pit accident himself when Team K-Upton Ziagi hit the rear of the 00 Domino's Toyota. Both cars went for a spin, but no major damage was inflicted to either, although both drivers wound up having a damaged rear end on their cars after hitting the pit lane wall. But for those who thought that the crashing was over, one more crash occurred with 10 laps to go. Harsk 100, someone who had been involved in an accident with Michelin during the first test race on the last turn, caused yet another crash. But this time around, the crash was far more brutal. The victim, PK Glover in the number 9 Mopar Dodge, was sent into the pit lane and had his car catapulted into the air with great force. This brutal impact put the Dodge upside down, and the car continued to move until coming to a halt near the pit lane wall at the end of turn 1. For Harsk and Glover, their race was over, and especially for Glover, a trip to the hospital was due because of an injured neck. Valley had been anything but green after such a vicious sequence of crashes, and very few thought otherwise. But despite the wild sequences, there were still those who were thinking about victory. Audi Man had survived all the accidents which had taken out some of his closest rivals. But he still had to contend with their winning Red Dragon, DCR Raikkonen and Nico Driver HC, who all had a clear shot at winning in Green Valley. With backmarkers Murphy Bug and Michelin ahead of them, no driver could get ahead by a long distance. Red Dragon's chances were vanquished when the header in her ME engine gave way, and her limp car blocked Nico Driver HC in the process, ending his own path to victory. Meanwhile, it seemed that Raikkonen had victory guaranteed, but a catastrophic decision to take a higher racing line for additional slipstream cost him dearly. Audi Man did not falter and sped past the number 84 Chevrolet to take victory in a fast and definitely furious Quaker State 400,